Let's talk about one of the many aspects of the game that it just doesn't tell you about. You can see it. There's no press X button in order to put a little hand cursor over the thing in order to understand what it is that you're looking at or have context at all. You can even go into like weapon skills and it won't tell you. It'll just tell you deals physical damage. And it maybe, if you're lucky, it'll say deals physical damage with a chance to slow. Things like that. It doesn't tell you that weapon skills, aka special moves, are affected by not only elemental properties sometimes, but are affected by your attributes. Pretty significantly in some cases. There's something that jumps out at you when you're playing as a thief that says, hey, did you know that when you raise your dexterity, you get additional damage on your sneak attacks? You either look this stuff up on the wiki, which is what you should be doing all the time. Anyway, this is a wiki game. If you try to pretend as if it's like 2002 and you just picked up the game in your local GameStop back when GameStop was good, and you plugged it into your machine or whatever you do with discs, and you have no wiki. There's no wiki, right? There's no information. You are going to have a bad time. This game is overtly reliant on wiki information. So you can either go to Horizon 11, aka horizonxi.com, in order to find said information, and if that's not there, then classic Final Fantasy 11, aka FFXI, .fandom.com, and then the information should be in either one of those two places and typically is replicated between them. Damage varies with TP. Like, what the hell does that mean? Right, exactly. So, let's go through the attributes and let's finally pin down, even though it's on the wiki, let's finally pin down in real time through the power of my simulated human voice that you resonate with each Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, your regional equivalent. Let's look at our stuff. So you see these bars. I don't know if you can even see it. My chat's blocking it. I'm a professional streamer. Hang on. Let me just get rid of chat for a second because there's no way I can move this. Okay, and we're also going to hide the widget. There we go. So you can see it at the top left there. I'm gonna go a step further. Add image, browse, stream support tools, orange line. That doesn't help me at all. I thought I had a box. Fuck it, we're gonna do it live. Under status, you go into your main menu. Under status, it's going to show you at the top left a bunch of abbreviations. Okay, I'm gonna say strength, dexterity, vitality, agility, intelligence, mind, charisma. What does it mean? Your question is as good as mine if you're looking at this for the first time. When you are picking your race, if it's like a human, aka hume, an elf, aka elven, Tarutaru, aka small magical person, Mithra, aka cat girl, Galka, giant beefcake, you're gonna see your attributes get nudged a little bit in any direction. Humes are generally just average in everything. Elven leans towards, like, if I remember correctly, strength, vitality, mind. Galka is like strength. There's strength and vitality, I believe. And I don't know what else. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't play Galka much. I don't know if you could tell. They're very strong and they do be thick and they have a big HP pool. All right. Tarutaru, intelligence, mind, charisma. Mithra is like heavy on the dexterity and agility and light on everything else, and that covers your basic food groups. Your basic values here are going to be further influenced. Let's move away from the teleporter so you don't have to hear it the whole time. Your attributes are going to be influenced by the job that you're playing. Job means class in other MMOs. So it's going to nudge it in certain directions. If you're playing a white mage, because they're very reliant on the mind attribute, your mind is going to be slightly higher than normal. If you're playing as like a black mage, your intelligence is going to be slightly higher than normal, and so on. very, very sweaty people who I would hesitate to recommend that you listen to at first while you're just trying to understand any of this stuff, are going to suggest that the only real race to play is something like Mithra, because they have high dexterity. High dexterity translates into higher accuracy. Higher accuracy means more effective hit rate, and so on. It just doesn't matter. Play the race that you want to play. I'm just making you aware of these attributes, right? You don't have to play as a Tartaru in order to get the most meaning or enjoyment out of playing a mage class, because like I said in the first round of us doing this tutorialization, any race can play any job, and there's different equipment options that are out there that can shore up any kind of issues or problems that you might have in like HP wise or MP wise and so on. There's even special equipment that you can earn that is supposed to shore up those specific weaknesses if you really care to seek those out. But ultimately, it does not matter. So I'm going to sit back in my chair. I'm going to go back to status, and we're going to take a look at each of these in sequence. All right. STR, what does strength do? Strength gives you something called attack. It also increases your ranged attack. So when the game is factoring in how much damage you're going to do to a monster, the game compares your strength against the monster's vitality, which is hidden. You can't see what a monster's vitality is, in order to determine the maximum possible amount of damage that you can do. Then your attack value, which you can see if you go under, what is it, combat skills, I believe? No, it's not. You can see it under equipment. This is a better screen to land on anyway. So under your equipment that you see in the top left there, you're going to see two values, attack 20, defense 36. So the game first compares strength versus vitality to determine the maximum possible amount of damage that you can do, period. Then it compares your attack value against the enemy's defense to give a hidden range in the background, like a possible roll that it can do. Then it rolls a number in that range when you bonk the monster, and it outputs the value. You did 1 damage. You did 50 damage. You did 9,000 damage. Something like that. The same is true for you. Whenever the monster attacks you, its hidden attack and attack value is compared against your defense, and so on and so forth. That's why when you're a paladin, aka the dude that's going to be getting hit a lot, or dudess that's going to be getting hit a lot, your equipment that you're going to want to be putting on typically has a combination of vitality and high defense on it, so that you keep rolling to have the monster do less damage to you and, you know, drag their possible damage on you down to as low of a level as it can. When you are holding a one-handed weapon, you get a little bit of attack for every point of strength that you get. When you're holding a two-handed weapon, you typically get a lot of attack per unit, per like point of strength that you can get. And your equipment is your equipment and food are the two main ways that you can increase any of these attributes, not just strength. That's basically all that strength is. Dexterity is a little bit more complicated in the sense that we're dealing with two different aspects of the game. One matters a ton and is what a lot of people are obsessed with, and for good reason. The other one doesn't matter so much, but could be neat to know. So for each, if you're holding a one-handed weapon, every 2 points of dexterity gives you 1 accuracy. What the hell is accuracy? A point of accuracy translates to half of a point of actual hit rate chance, like how likely it is that you're going to be hitting an enemy. When you're holding a two-handed weapon, like a greatsword or a scythe or whatever, every 1 point of dexterity instead is going to give you 1 point of accuracy. So how the hell does hit rate work? Each point of accuracy, like I said, 0.5% extra chance to hit the enemy. So the game compares your accuracy versus the enemy's evasion to give you a range. And you can see, I want to hide the chat for a second. Let me see at the actual chat at the bottom left. When you are just standing around in town, not looking at your main menu or anything like that, you can do / check param, aka check parameters, and then put in little less than more than brackets me, and that is going to output what your accuracy is and what your evasion is. Also, if you're wearing like if you have dual wield capability, which is given to you by a job called Ninja, It'll also tell you whatever the accuracy and the attack value is of your offhand weapon. And we'll put that back on for the new peeps that are going to be coming in. Only matters is one truly needs to min-max themselves. All right, let's see here. All right, let's boot up the equipment screen again. So the game compares your accuracy versus enemy evasion in order to get a range. Same general principle as like your attack value versus their defense value and strength versus vitality. Only in the sense that hit rate is just the comparison of your accuracy versus the evasion. The game then rolls in that range to tell if you hit or not. You can never be lower than 20% accurate. Like even if you're a level 1 dude or dudess trying to hit a monster that's level 80, you can never have less than a 20% chance to hit them. Conversely, you can never be more than 95% accurate. There's always going to be a floor for you missing. Even if you're level 75 versus a level 2, it's happened to me. You can miss like 2 or 3 times in a row. It's super messed up when it happens, but it does. So I mentioned the other thing. That's the most critical aspect. The second thing to be aware of, but that isn't really going to affect you in your normal day-to-day, is how critical hit rate works and how dexterity plays into that. So the game compares your dexterity to the enemy's agility to make a range, and then rolls a number in that range for a possible crit. I don't know what your natural crit rate is. There are people out there that probably do. I don't know anybody that maximizes dexterity for better crit rate. There are weapons and I think equipment out there that allows you to have a boosted crit rate, but whatever your crit rate is, it do be being pretty small, almost to the point that you can't really meaningfully build a build around critical hit rate. Like the one weapon that I'm personally aware of that has a real increase in hit rate chance is a dagger in the 40s, 75 being the highest level that you can get. A dagger in the 40s that gives you plus 6% critical hit rate, but the damage on the dagger is so low that it almost doesn't matter. Let's see, let's move down to vitality. So vitality, I kind of already prefaced it before, but 2 points of vitality equals 1 defense. Higher vitality lowers the maximum possible damage you can take. Pretty bare bones, pretty straightforward, nothing really weird about it. If you want to get hit for less in general, just equip something that has lots of vitality, but you only really ever need to worry about that if you're like a tank, a traditional tank job, which as of this writing is basically just paladin, like ninjas that don't really try to take advantage of defense that often. Their whole shtick is not getting hit, dodging a lot, excuse me. And warriors basically have a complex where they feel like they can never tank or reasonably tank after level 25. But for the ones that haven't, you know, aren't high on their own supply and are willing to fill that role when it's needed, they too can get and equip pretty heavy armor that typically comes with the vitality boost of some kind. Right, exactly. Paladin or Turtle War. Agility. This one's very weird. Okay, it affects a lot of different things all over the place, and to the extent at which it affects things, I just flatly don't know. I just know it helps the things that's going to come out of my mouth. 2 points of agility equals 1 evasion. 1 evasion, like accuracy, translates to 0.5% chance to dodge, effectively. 2 points is supposed to improve your shield block rate. Typically only really a thing for the jobs that get real use out of shield, which is paladin for the most part. Warriors are the ones that are second best able to block with shields. They have the second most shield skill that you can have. 2 points equals an improved parry rate. Same principle. Parry rate is a weird one in that ninjas, I think, have the highest chance or the highest cap and skill level, which I'll explain skills and all that stuff at some point. The highest skill in order to parry things, which is like dodging. So basically, when you dodge, when you fail to dodge an enemy's attack, the game rolls to see if you parried instead. 2 points equals 1 ranged accuracy. So if you're a ranged job, which you can include thief in that. It's not a dedicated ranged job, but they have a lot of utility as far as that goes. Range accuracy. And if you're one of the few people that play ninja and can afford throwing over 400 shuriken in a single typical party, that's also for you. There's different rings that you can swap in order to give you better range accuracy. Moving down to intelligence. Intelligence improves black magic quotation finger marks type spells, which are like debuffs or direct damage, and this also includes ninja spells because ninja spells do elemental damage. Explaining how it affects things is a whole thing in and of itself, and all this is confusing as is. Okay, just know that if you're like a black mage, you want as much intelligence as possible. It doesn't really affect other jobs really too much. Mind affects resistance to enemy spells. It improves your healing ability, and it improves, weirdly enough, white magic type spells that are debuffs or direct damage. It would be a lot easier if I could just tell you if you want to do like every single offensive spell is governed by intelligence. It's not. There are a handful of spells that are considered like holy magic that are boosted specifically by mind and not intelligence. This isn't mentioned anywhere in game, to my understanding. Just know that this is a thing. So these white magic spells are going to be Banish and Holy. I'm sure that there are others. Jury is out in my head whether Dia is considered. I think Dia is considered like enfeebling, and Mind should help with Dia. And Dia is a spell that reduces enemy defense and does a little bit chip damage to them over time. Charisma. So charisma improves songs, buffs and debuffs if you're a bard. It doesn't. Other than bards, the only other thing that really helps is helping Beastmasters charm monsters out in the world to fight for them. Those are the two main things that they affect. I guess you could also say that it helps you resist charm status effects, but the types of monsters that are out there that can actually cause a charm status effect on you are so far and in between that most of them are like notorious monsters anyway. Like there's like a race of sexy snake people that are in churches of Autogon areas that can charm you, but in most cases you're never going to run into the status effect. And I can't really think of a reason you would want to stack charisma if you're not a bard or a beastmaster. Summoner journey, hell yeah. So that's all the attributes and how they work. Weapon skills, which are like special moves that you gradually learn as your combat skill with the given weapon increases, are affected by different stats. I do not have a catalog in my head for what weapon skills are affected by what stats. They vary very wildly. Okay, so just look it up on the wiki if you're curious. It's all over the place. I can't just point at a thief and be like, yeah, every single weapon skill that they can use, just dump dexterity and agility into it and be fine. I cannot just give you a blanket statement like that. This game is not like that. So let's talk about weapons, shall we? There's lots of if we go over yonder to ye old auction house and just take a cursory glance at weapons, you will get a breakdown by abbreviation of what jobs those weapons can be equipped by. So let's just go to something that everybody's familiar with. Swords. If we scroll down to something like, I don't know, let's pick something pretty typical. What's one that people equip a lot? Probably Centurion sword, I would imagine. Are there no Centurion swords anywhere? You kidding? We'll just look at it. Centurion sword, pretty popular sword. It gives you accuracy and attack power, which we've mentioned are very important for various reasons. It's a relatively high damaging sword with a relatively low delay. Delay just means how many milliseconds it takes before you swing again, before any types of traits or anything applies. It's saying that it can be equipped by warriors, red mages, thieves, paladins, dark knights, bards, rangers, ninjas, dragoons, blue mages, and something run, which is like a rune fencer, if I remember correctly. Blue mage isn't in the game yet. Rune fencer is like is probably like 6 years away. I'm gonna be honest with you on this private server. So we're really looking at the first however many. You could, as a level 30 dragoon, run up to the auction house and grab a centurion sword and go out and fight things. Should you? Absolutely not. Why is this? It's because certain jobs have skill ceilings with certain weapons, right? And like I've dabbled talking about before, those skill ceilings are achieved by going out into yonder and hitting monsters with said weapons until you get combat skill. Every point of combat skill that you get equals roughly 1 accuracy, which, as we mentioned before, is worth getting as much as possible about it, or as much as you possibly can. The issue is that just because you can equip something does not mean that you should necessarily, right? A dragoon is going to never be as good as a paladin at swinging a sword. They're just flatly not. Each job has like its own archetypal weapon or series of weapons that it's very good at. And I'm gonna run down the list of generally speaking which weapons you're going to commonly see people use or should use. There's nothing preventing you except your own god or gods, if you have multiple, from going out there as a dragoon and equipping the centurion sword. Okay, I'm just saying there's that skill ceiling is the principal reason why you should not. As a warrior, you're going to be wanting to grab either great axes or axes and shields, or double axes if you have the ninja sub weapon or ninja sub job leveled up and you have access to dual wield. You will see warriors out there that equip 2 axes, 2 one-handed axes for various reasons. Okay. Sorry, I'm being surrounded at the moment. I'm doing stuff. I'm doing stuff that's very important. People are listening to me right now. And they could be spending time doing literally fuck all else. Okay. I'm a professional. The merch is coming. I've already sent myself like a quality print of like a hoodie, but I have to make sure that before I actually suggest people buy my stuff on stream, that it's actually worth it. Anyway, so like I was saying, great axes, if you're trying to do damage as a warrior. Axe and shield, if you're trying to do tanking. After level 25 or 30, you're going to very rarely see any warrior equip a shield ever. It's typically either going to be double axes or a great axe. Monks, hand to hand. Monks can and do have skill in staves or staffs, whatever your chosen parlance. It is of much debate whether they ever should. I'm sure that there are use cases out there for using a polar or using staves over hand to hand. I've never personally seen in like the fucking 15, 17, 19 years that I've been personally aware of this game, I've never seen any monk use a staff before. I've heard of it happen, but it's like a unicorn. You've heard that you've heard about them, you've never seen one. Very, very few. That's right. Thank you, Felicity, also for being here. Your presence is cherished as always, unless you're subbing in and in a burn using Rema. That's also true. I cannot hear you. What? Ursula says hi, Felicity. Okay, so monk, hand to hand. If you're a monk, just use hand to hand. Just take it from me. Okay. Thieves. Their bread and butter is dagger, and they also use. You can typically see them using crossbow bolts for stats effects and stuff like that. But their mainline tool is going to be a dagger. They can't. You will sometimes see in extremely early levels them using a hand-to-hand or a sword or whatever. Just don't confuse yourself if you're brand new to the game. If you're a thief, just use daggers. Okay, you'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Just use daggers. White mages are typically going to be using clubs because they give you attribute bonuses to the intelligence and the mind that I mentioned before. They're never going to be in a party setting attacking in person unless it's basically something that's been like voted as being okay in by the whole general party, or if you're in something called like a skill up party where the whole point is to just swing at something that's pretty durable until you get skill up in that thing. But you're never going to see them in melee using the club ever. Black mage, same deal. They get skill, like a higher skill ceiling in using staves or staves, but you're almost never going to see them using a staff until you get to elemental staves, which are their own subject. Just don't worry about that. Just use clubs for the foreseeable future. Red mages are like the jack of all trades. They have like a general smattering of skills and everything. They can use shields below averagely to averagely. They can use swords below averagely to averagely. If you're soloing things, which red mage is a very adaptable job, so you could reasonably take on things that most other jobs can't really in most situations, you would be using a sword and a shield in those situations. Otherwise, in a party environment, outside extremely low levels, you're going to be seeing them using a club. Intelligence, mind, that whole deal. What's the dog doing? The dog is tutorializing the shit out of the maybe one person that's watching right now that's brand new to Final Fantasy 11 and chose me over watching like ALR52 or Electro Slag. You know, I'm here for you. I'm here to just give you a massive information dump as quickly and effectively and efficiently as I can. All right, I'm doing this for you, that one guy. Paladins, clubs, yeah. ALR52 is a great dude, massively entertaining, very good with his chat. I'm just saying that in this instance, I happen to be tutorializing one. I don't know if they're doing the same. Paladins are going to be using either club or sword. They can, as a technicality, use greatswords. Should they ever, as somebody that leveled Paladin all the way up to 75 and considers it to be their main until something called a blue mage comes out, I use greatswords all the way up to 70. I killed the shit out of like a boss type character in order to unlock some key features of the game, just using a greatsword like 80% of the time. Don't use a greatsword. Life is going to be hard enough for you as is when you're still learning the game. If you are a paladin, use a club if you're wanting to focus on sustain, because it can give you magic points back, which you can turn into healing for yourself or your party. Or if you want to focus on damage dealing, then you can use a sword. Both are equally good options. One isn't necessarily better than the other. Want to help me with Zealot missions later? We'll see. After I still have like apparently 2 or 3 more subjects to go through, and then I was planning on leveling up Summoner a little bit just to get out of my system, because I have XP ring charges that I have to use, and they're just sitting there. I have 3, and it's already Wednesday, so it's got to be done. Beastmasters, axe, they can use size. I've seen some Beastmasters use size. I'm sure that there's good reasons for using size. Like, I guess if you have, in terms of long-term DPS, if you're extremely accurate, like you're borderline close at 90% hit rate that I mentioned before, size could be good. But I almost never see a Beastmaster equip anything other than an axe or 2 axes, and that's all she wrote. Rangers use either axes or daggers, typically because of the stats that come with them. On Horizon, they have it so that you have like a range that you want to be away from the monster, aka the sweet spot, to be the most damaging and the most accurate with your weapons. So you're never going to be equipping weapons for melee damage. You're always going to be equipping them for like the range accuracy or the range attack. That's basically the beginning and end of it. They're the most proficient as a ranger in ranged weapons. Big surprise, either in bows or crossbows or guns. People will argue up and down with each other whether you should use bows over guns or crossbows, but the general thought process is that if cost doesn't matter and you have the range accuracy to back it up, you want to use guns 24/7. How many people use guns regularly? Maybe 3%. Maybe 3 to 5% of rangers actually use guns. The other 95+% of the time, you're going to see them using bows. Probably because the ammo is cheaper, more plentiful, and it typically has like range accuracy bonuses and stuff like that, which on not just the arrows, but also on the bows themselves. And you hardly ever see range accuracy ever on guns and things like that. Let's see. Oh, not foreseen. Like later, as in a couple days, waits a paladin solo and still don't greatsword. Yeah, your shield block rate is going to matter so much for sustain in situations like that. If you want to do it for fun, absolutely 100% go for it. Don't hesitate to use a greatsword for fun. You could do pretty silly damage with a greatsword as a paladin, damage that you wouldn't really expect in a lot of situations, but in most cases, just use a sword and shield. It's going to matter so much for you in the long term in terms of survivability. Let's see. Ninjas use katanas. That's it. Period T. Summoners can equip clubs and staves. They have more of a higher skill ceiling with staves, but they're never going to be meleeing. They're always going to be using the things that they summon in order to do their dirty work for them. Dark Knights, great swords or size. This is extremely generally speaking. If you're going to be combining weapon skills to create things called skill chains, which is like using specific weapon skills after somebody else in your party uses their own weapon skill, you can create like a bonus effect. Great swords, just saying it like as like a blanket suggestion, are going to have an easier time comboing off of other people or starting combos that other people can work off of, aka skill chains. Size are heavy hitting, very, very heavy hitting, but it's really up to personal preference, to be honest with you. There's not really a big gulf between them. You see Dark Knights using great swords and size all the time, basically 50-50. Samurai can use, primarily will be using great katanas. They will also be seen using spears, more so than anything, because a lot of the monsters that you're typically going to be killing over the course of the game are flying, and flying creatures take additional damage from piercing. So even if you have a lower skill ceiling as a samurai with the spear versus just using a great katana, the amount of damage that you're outputting is so much higher as like a raw value that it basically doesn't matter. But in most cases, when you're not fighting something flying, or if you just want to simplify it and not worry ever, just equip a great sword. Nobody's going to complain. Or great katana, sorry. Dragoon, just spears. They can. Tortured. I've never seen them use anything else. This man is more dangerous than he seems. Oh, thank you, Protect. I really appreciate it. Thank you for following. Every single one makes a big difference. All right, I'm going to pause here because I wanted to offer promotion of your channel, viewers, followers, views, chat, bots. The price is lower than any competitor. The quality is guaranteed to be the best. Auto on. I don't even have to touch it. It just does it. Incredibly flexible and convenient